Hey, Jason here at Shred Mentor Rock Guitar Academy, and in this video I'm going to show you how finger exercises are a waste of time. I brought this up recently on a Facebook group, and I was amazed at the amount of backlash that I got when I suggested that finger exercises are a waste of time and that playing scale and arpeggio sequences will give you all the same benefits and more in a much shorter time. I'm not sure what this offends in anyone, really, because the idea that you can do something faster that you want to do anyway should actually pique your interest. And I explained in this group how to do it in a lot of detail. But anyway, the amount of reaction I got showed me that this is something that does need to be said, and I'm going to demonstrate for you right now why it's better to work on sequences based on scales and arpeggios rather than mere finger exercises, okay? And I'm not going to start off by pretending that there's no benefit to finger exercises. In fact, I'm going to start off by telling you the benefits of finger exercises. They are two: get your fingers moving and establish finger independence without any guarantee of musicality. Now, scale sequences, not to be confused with playing scales up and down, which no one wants to hear either. No one wants to hear a finger exercise, but no one wants to hear that either. Technically, I guess you could call it a sequence. It's the ascending and descending sequence that everyone beats the hell out of when they do sweep arpeggios. Right? Bored yet? I am too. That isn't really very interesting because it's just one sequence over and over again being applied to all these different arpeggios. So anything you just play over and over and over again, up and down, it's going to get boring. Anything that gets overused gets boring, okay? So let's get that out of the way right away. Now, get your fingers moving, finger independence, right? A scale sequence does that too. Get your fingers moving. Let's say we do the sequence of thirds. 1, 3, 2, 4, 3, 5, 4, 6, deriving it from the first 6 notes of the E minor scale. Okay, that's one thing. Now, it does leave out the middle finger, so what we can also do is move it to the next mode of the scale. Now it's leaving out the ring finger, but it's using the middle finger entirely. So now, just between those first two shapes of the E minor scale, of a fragment of the E minor scale, mind you, we've gotten all of our fingers involved. We've got them moving independently. Both of the benefits already right there. And we're also starting to work on our fretboard knowledge and our theory knowledge, therefore, because that's what we're looking at on the fretboard, is the theory. Where are the notes that make the sounds I want to make? And along with it, we're hearing what we're doing, so we're also training our ears as well. So there's 3 new benefits right on top of the first 2. We're also establishing motor memory based on where the notes are actually going to be in actual music. Okay, not some random chromatic-based thing where everything's conveniently located but sounds like crap. We're actually playing scales that sound pleasant, according to history here. So a little bit of tradition still here. We use the minor scale and major scale because they sound nice, and we want our music to sound nice. So getting used to playing these patterns is going to sort of develop those habits of motion that are going to come through whether we mean to or not when we're just making stuff up off the top of our heads. Okay, because let's face it, as much as, yes, you should always try to play as much from feeling and from your ears rather than just what your hand wants to do, eventually your hand creeps in and starts to kind of perform its habits. So when you practice finger exercises, you're kind of devoting a certain percentage of your habits, vocabulary, to things that aren't even musical. So stop that. Don't do that. There's no reason to do that, because your scale knowledge along with your theory knowledge is going to benefit, and your ear training and your actual motor memory is going to benefit. So your overall technique and your vocabulary, which is what the next thing is, you're getting a vocabulary out of this that is based on the actual sounds you want to be making, not on some random stuff that some book told you should do. So when I say vocabulary, take a look at that. You notice how long is that phrase? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. That is one rhythmically compatible number right there. Pretty much any situation in 4/4 you can use that, and you can use it for 2 measures of quarter notes, you can use it for 1 measure of 8th notes, you can use it for 2 beats of 16th notes. You know, you can break up the pattern itself, like 1 E and a 2 and 3 and, that's 3 beats worth. You know, it doesn't all have to be the same rhythmic length either. It's the same sequence, it doesn't matter. And so which means that I can develop the vocabulary, and I can then improvise better because I'm going to have more complex things that I'm used to doing that I can just pull out on a moment's notice and just use it in a musical way if the situation is right. So I'm developing my ability to improvise better as well. Not only that, it also provides, get this, opportunities to develop your phrasing. Also the most lacking thing in most guitar players today, except for the really good ones. Your phrasing consists largely of the way that you play individual notes. So you're bending intonation, not just being able to bend a string, but actually hit the target note, play it, make it sound musical and emotional, apply vibrato to it, or even without the bend, apply vibrato to it in a musical way, waiting a beat before you apply the vibrato. Taking very special care to bend a certain width and at a certain speed and keeping it consistent. All of those things get left out if you're just snoring yourself to sleep with everyone else playing something unemotional like that. When exactly, what beat exactly would you throw in some cool phrasing like that? What's going to make that sound cooler? Not playing that. That's basically what's going to make that sound cooler. All right, so okay, that, it's much more musical immediately. Now I can do it in every mode. You know, and I can get a feel for what demands are going to be placed on my hand all the way through the entire scale this way. Now, you should cover the entirety of the scale, but don't think you have to do this all in one sitting, okay? If you're just getting used to your scales at all, do 2 modes at a time, back and forth like I did. Because you're going to also start to form associations between the different shapes as you're doing it, okay? So it's really just a modification of a finger exercise, really, that we're doing, but the modification or modifications that we're doing to it make it far more of a high yield activity, because when you practice, you are literally investing. You're investing time and you're investing energy, and you want a payoff. So literally it's an investment. I'm not making a metaphor here. It's an actual investment of time and energy. And like any investment, you want it to pay off as much and as quickly as possible. So there's really nothing admirable about going for the slowest possible way just because the people who came before us suggested that we do that. You can actually progress faster than the people who came before you if you actually think about what is going into this. There should always be rhythm. There's never a time to be out of time or paying no attention to where your melody falls within the rhythm. And you should always be playing in key unless there's a very good reason to be playing a note from outside the key. And then throw that into your exercise as well. Practice playing that melody because you might need to do it quickly or, you know, instantaneously. There should always be accenting in your rhythm so that we understand how you mean the emphasis to work out inside of the rhythmic context, okay? And ultimately, you know, you want to be paying attention to the chord playing in the background, which I haven't done yet, but if you're playing over a backing track, there should be some kind of backing chord or something so that you know which note to play at the same time. Even after you play something like, let's say that I'll take the sequence of 6s applied to the minor pentatonic scale. 6 notes, I'm going to go back a string, play another 6 notes, okay? And I could do that as many times as I want, but I'm probably only going to do it 2 times, just because if you just use it a little bit here and there, it doesn't sound like an exercise, and that's kind of what we're aiming for. You don't want your actual playing to sound like exercises, but you need to practice exercises so that your playing has enough familiarity for you to be confident and know where you're going next. All right, so here's a backing track real quick. Let's see, oops, let's back this up real quick. All right, so instead of going 1 note at a time, okay, it might work. You know, on my way back, I might do like, there's that sequence of 6s. So it gives me some chance to think about, when I'm improvising, to think about which note I'm going to try to land on, because the note that I'm playing, as soon as I hold a note out, that's the note that's going to count a lot. I want to make sure I stay with the scale when I'm playing the sequence. I don't want to go outside of it, because that will still stand out if you hit some wrong notes by accident. And a wrong note is one you didn't mean to play, by the way. It doesn't mean that it's outside the scale. It just means that you didn't mean to play it, and likely it was probably outside the scale. So an accidentally played accidental is a wrong note. But if you mean to play an out of key note for a good reason, because it sounds cool to you, that's a right note. So mistakes, right? Forming habits of your motion so you don't make mistakes, and you're intimately familiar with the movements that it requires to play pieces of your scales and to play in key in interesting rhythmic ways. That's a big part of it, but also paying attention to how that works in the background of what you're doing is also of vital importance. You need to make sure that the note you're playing at this moment actually fits with the chord that's playing at this moment. Otherwise, it's not really the best choice of note. That's what improvising also entails, and a lot of people lose that. But it also entails phrasing. Notice that I threw bends and vibrato and stuff in there too. And I threw enough rhythmic variation in there for it to stay at least somewhat interesting. So I hope that this demonstrates pretty clearly how this kind of blows finger exercises out of the water. If you practice pieces of your scales in a certain way and keep changing what sequence you're actually doing. I did sequence of thirds. You could do sequence of threes. You could do something much longer like a... I don't even know what you would call that one. I think I named it in my book, The Book of Sequences, but it doesn't really matter what you call it. It matters if you can remember the recipe and do it again from anywhere, in any scale, or even using arpeggios. It doesn't really matter. So all of this can be applied to arpeggios and scales, by the way. So let's say you could do like... let's do it in reverse too. By continually thinking of new orders to play the same number of notes in, you're going to keep coming up with new approaches for your technique, and your hand is going to get extremely independent in terms of finger independence. So there's really just nothing that finger exercises can do that scale and arpeggio sequences can't do as well and better, and get you a lot more musical benefit in a shorter time. I'm Jason at Shredmentor Rock Guitar Academy. Don't forget to subscribe and let me know what you think about this in the comments. Rock on.